Hey guys, another edition of Off the Top Rope here off the Mike Sports Network. So I always love doing this time of week because it's a fun topic for me. It creates a lot of engagement in terms of there's a lot of feedback I get on my AEW content. But I need to point something out here, and this has become an inherent problem with all elite wrestling. I will say that, the aesthetics and the sound of what these AEW shows, they don't sound like funerals anymore. Like they don't sound like very quiet. You've got, people going into the you got people in smaller venues and it's sounding a lot better. So that's something to improve on. But let's be real here. AEW is not a real business. They're not about making money. They're about patting people on the back and just, doing things for fun and just, they're not about making money. They're not. Because if they were, they wouldn't be, patting themselves on the back. Because I'm seeing posts like, hey, they've incrementally uh increased their viewership by about 100,000 over the last month. Great. Great. Because you know what that net increase gains you to? You're at what? 663,000 viewers. You're at 663,000 viewers. You were at 1 million a couple years ago. 1 million viewers a year ago. You're talking about gloating about beating Eric Bischoff in WCW next month. Great. Cool. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. This is all about accolades and stuff because here's the reality of the situation and why I just think that this company is just not serious and they're not a real business and they don't really care about the basic stuff that is going to make you successful. They care about just like small victories and moral victories. And it's like, because listen, why are you pumping up? Okay, we've got market growth or just incremental growth over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. You're still losing to NXT, who does not have the roster that you do. That's why I have a problem. And when you consistently go out and trot out shows, granted, there is good wrestling on this show, and that's never been my issue with this show. It's never been my problem because they always have had one of the most talented, and they've paid a lot of people who are really talented to wrestle on their show. But too often they get stuck in the mud and they're more focused on the wrong things. They're focused on, hey, we got paid a big contract by Warner Brothers Discovery. Great. You know, WWE got paid a huge contract by Fox and the Saudis. Vince McMahon didn't do shit with it. And we saw one of the worst runs of creative because they got lazy. And that's what AEW's gotten lazy. Granted, when they're lazy, they still put on great wrestling matches that mean absolutely positively nothing. And when you're celebrating this incremental growth, which, granted is great, but considering where you were a couple years ago at almost double the numbers that you did, like they were celebrating Collision numbers that started out at about 1.5 million viewers because of the NCAA tournament. They lost almost half that viewership in 15 minutes. You want to know why? Nobody cares. They saw that they left their television on and then they realized, oh, NCAA tournament's over. What the fuck is this? Oh, I don't care. There's no reason to care. And then given ultimate opportunities to promote their product, they don't even do that correctly. MJF was at a Rangers game for opening day throwing out the first pitch. You could hear pin drops when his music hit. And AEW couldn't even be bothered to promote, hey, MJF's throwing out the first pitch at the Rangers game to open the season. Like, this company does not give a crap about being a basic business, because if they cared, they would be they would not be satisfied with under 700,000 viewers and just incremental growth, because they were, guys, here's all the reflection you need to know. February 19th, that episode of Dynamite did 563,000 viewers. That's one of the lowest rated numbers that they've gotten. They're now up to 663. They're up 100,000 viewers, and that's over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4, over the course of a month. So why does this company consistently, like, I come on here and I rip them to shreds because I expect more. Because I know what this company can be when they're motivated. when they were going up against WWE, when Vince McMahon was in the shitter and WWE's creative was at its weakest, it became a landing spot for a lot of people. And a lot of people have gotten lazy. A lot of people have gotten complacent. Tony Khan doesn't care. Tony Khan is just going to do whatever the fuck he wants. And it's just like, it's frustrating when I see a lot of these fanboy Twitter accounts and like, all these people pumping up saying, and it was a great show, a great atmosphere. It's like, guys, you used to be filling up 15,000 seat buildings and selling out venues. Now you're struggling to get almost 700,000 viewers. What is, it's just a non-serious business right now. And when you're celebrating meaningless mining milestones like beating a company that hasn't been a factor in the wrestling business for 25 years because a guy who used to run that place is a podcaster and doesn't like the way you're doing things, is just trying to help you. I don't get this place, man. I really don't. And it's just like their fans are just geeks. It's just like, and then the people who don't like what I'm saying come up in my comments and complain about me. And I'm like, guys, all I want is what's best for wrestling. And what's best for wrestling is a AEW that is actually motivated and cares. Because if an AEW that is motivated and cares would not be satisfied with less than 700,000 viewers. They were at 563 a month ago. Congratulations, you gained 100,000 viewers. You're still getting beaten out by WWE C Show with a bunch of developmental people who have barely been in the business. Some of these people, by the way, used to work for you. Ricky Starks, remember him? You ran him out of there. Sean Spears, you ran him out of there. But Ethan Page, you ran him out of there. They're all on the other place, and they're doing better than you are. So at what point is it just going to become like, evident that, hey, try a little bit harder. You're putting on good wrestling matches, but there's no reason to care. It's just a bunch of empty calories. It's like going to see a popcorn action flick. And if that's what you are, then say it. But that's not what they've been saying. They're talking about being an alternative, but it's like you've presented yourself like you're trying to compete with WWE. And look at where you are. You can't even compete with their third product, their C Show. Come on. What are we talking about here? Anyway, thanks so much. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.